Hello my fellow Nigerians! The new killer Kaneki, or that's at least how people call this killer. I don't know, I'm not really into hentai. But anyway, the new killer Kaneki is kind of fun, but so is public masturbation until you get arrested. The point is, not everything that's fun is actually good, and the new killer obviously has some flaws. I'm not a hater. Please ignore the fact that every time the new killer comes out, I make a video about how the new killer is trash, okay? Just ignore this fact. But I believe that the new killer, the Ghoul, has one big flaw which makes this killer much weaker than most people believe he is. And also, this flaw has been intentionally integrated into this killer's power, meaning that developers are aware that the killer has a flaw like this.
I think we did a pretty good job so far.
So let's talk about it, but before that, if you are into Dead by Daylight, or if you love me and my 6.5 inches then don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. Okay, so imagine if the Legion was a transgender woman and she got penetrated by Albert Wesker, the baby would be Kaneki. That's right, the new killer is like a mix between the Legion, Albert Wesker, and the Blight actually. And this mix reminds me of Miles Morales if he wasn't black. The point is, you can injure survivors with your power just like the Blight by bouncing off walls first and then leaping into a survivor, which makes it extremely easy to injure survivors. I'm not gonna complain about that. That is not a problem. In fact, even if the survivor is miles away from you, but you can see that survivor in front of you, there is nothing, absolutely nothing preventing you from bouncing off the wall, leaping into that survivor and injuring the survivor even though that survivor has already vaulted the window. That is very cool. There is literally no counterplay that survivors can use to avoid getting injured by this killer most of the time. Here we go. Easy injure. I'm just gonna chase her. No, I'm gonna get him. Fuck it, let's injure everybody. I love that I can do this through walls. Nice. In fact, on my last video about this killer, one of my viewers left a comment actually saying that this killer might be stronger than the nurse, which is kind of crazy. But there are people actually believing that Kaneki might be an S-tier killer. And I do realize that these killers that have no difficulty injuring people are very annoying, and actually if you don't know how to counter them, and you know, most people don't, then these killers are actually pretty strong. I'm talking about the Legion, the Trickster, the Oni. All of these killers are pretty annoying to go against. I mean, personally, I would rather shove a toothbrush up my ass than go against the Trickster. This killer is just pure cancer. But Kaneki reminds me of the Legion more than the Trickster, and the Legion, as we know, is not one of the stronger killers in Dead by Daylight, but undeniably the Legion is one of the most annoying killers in the game. And the Ghoul suffers from the same problem that the Legion suffers from, which is injuring survivors is easy for this killer, but after you injure every single survivor, well, you cannot really down them with your power. You kind of become an M1 killer, and you might argue that Kaneki has a mobility factor in his power, basically being able to leap onto objects and travel around the map pretty fast, but, big but, Kaneki has a cooldown after exiting his power, and while it is very handy being able to jump through the map trying to look for survivors, while actually chasing a survivor, his mobility factor might be a downside. Now imagine yourself playing Kaneki, and the survivor is good at looping killers, okay? Imagine the survivor looping you around the killer's shack and they drop the pallet. Well, you can actually vault the pallet while using your power, right? But it will take a while to vault that pallet. You are actually much better just just breaking that pallet. And even though you can use your power to get closer to the injured survivor, especially when that survivor is miles away from you, that's true, but you will suffer from the cooldown expiring and you will have to waste a couple seconds while getting out of the cooldown, and the survivor will be able to gain a significant distance from you, and that significant distance might help the survivor to actually reach the window or a pallet. One thing I like about the Kaneki's power is if you use Bamboozle, for example, you can use your power to vault the window a little bit faster and it will actually block the window. But other than that, if every survivor on the map is injured, well, this killer suffers from the same issue that the Legion suffers from, which is that this killer becomes an M1 killer, and his mobility factor, it's not that helpful when everybody is injured. Now, funny enough, I can even say that the Legion might actually be stronger than Kaneki, because if the Legion injures 4 survivors while using his power, the 5th attempt to injure an already injured survivor will actually down that survivor. So even though the Legion turns into an M1 killer when everybody on the map is injured, the Legion can still benefit from using his power in a way. Now again, Kaneki has that mobility factor, being able to leap onto the walls, but that mobility factor of Kaneki is so much stronger in theory than it is actually in practice. Let me give you an example. Imagine you are playing Kaneki and you are on the hill and you're trying to use your power to get down from the hill. Yes, you will be able to do that, you will get down from the hill, but it will instantly put your power into the cooldown mode, meaning that if a healthy survivor jumps off a hill and you are on that same hill and you want to get a cool hit while using your ability, you know, getting off the hill while using your power and injuring that survivor, it's impossible to do it, you know? You will get off the hill, but your power will immediately get into the cooldown mode. I think this restriction should be completely removed. It is completely unnecessary in my opinion, and I even see a way for the developers to make this killer stronger when everybody on the map gets injured without making this killer overpowered. So the way they can buff this killer is the same way they buffed the Legion. Basically, when every single survivor on the map gets injured by you using your power, the 5th attack with your power, if you attack the survivor that is already injured, could automatically down that survivor. Now, I think that this would be fair, because to be able to down the 5th survivor, you will have to meet certain conditions. For example, injure every single survivor on the map by using your power, and if you used your M1 attack to injure a survivor, then it would make it impossible to down a survivor with your ability, you know what I mean? But overall, I think that this is problematic because survivors will learn how to counter this killer, and basically they will refuse to heal. And yes, you might argue that, hey, survivors that don't heal are carrying an exposed risk of getting downed because, you know, they are basically one hit down, but at the same time, you become an M1 killer, and hey, who the fuck wants to play as an M1 killer without anything too special? Like, nobody wants to do that. It is just plain and boring. Anyway, comment your opinions, and I'll see you in my next Dead by Daylight video. See you later.